Breaking news. In the last session, the European Parliament has rejected ACTA. The members of the European Parliament have voted against the adoption of the Anti-Counterfeiting Trade Agreement, an international agreement on intellectual property rights, which aims at reinforcing the regime of copyright enforcement. The treaty itself has created a very heated European-wide debate over the past few months. The debate in the European Parliament has been equally vivid and has now culminated with the rejection of ACTA with a surprisingly wide and bipartisan majority. Following this vote, ACTA will not enter into force in the European Union. Members of the European Parliament have repeated on various occasions that the agreement is wrong in both content and process. Over the past few months, not only Parliament members, but also NGOs, activists, and advisory commissions have underlined the ambiguous nature of ACTA, which could endanger the freedom of doing business online and force web platforms to control user-generated content to enforce copyright protections. A second clear line of criticism that has been raised towards ACTA is related to its provisions on patents in the field of medicines. Médecins Sans Frontières and other organizations have claimed that ACTA would make it more difficult to produce generic drugs, which are especially needed in third world countries, whose representatives have not been part of the negotiations on the treaty. NGOs also claim that ACTA will not solve the problem of counterfeit drugs. The European Parliament has also criticized the negotiation process, which has lasted over 3 years and saw a predominant role of the European Commission, at the expense of the European Parliament and the national parliaments. Activists have openly contested the limited input from the public that has characterized the negotiations. They claimed that this lack of transparency is especially dangerous, given the impact that ACTA could have by removing personal liberties and freedom of expression online. After the reforms of the Lisbon Treaty, the European Parliament has to be involved in the adoption of international agreements, and it has to give its consent to the adoption of such acts. This historical vote against ACTA, whose adoption was strongly supported by the European Commission, signals a new will of the European Parliament to take its role seriously and to scrutinize the decisions of the Commission. After this vote on ACTA, it will be more difficult for the Commission to bypass the opinion of the Parliament. ACTA was also the first international agreement to generate such a widespread wave of protest. The past few months have seen demonstrations all over the cities of Europe, which have driven the attention of the public to the issues of intellectual property rights and freedom of expression, and have greatly influenced the work of the European Parliament. In February, a petition signed by more than 2.4 million European citizens was delivered to the European Parliament. However, members of the European Parliament have also reported that the decisive input that influenced their vote has come from their own voters. Many citizens have contacted their members of parliament to express their concerns on ACTA and have urged their representatives to vote against the agreement. MEPs report that without the fundamental contributions of so many European citizens who voiced their opposition to ACTA, this historical veto would not have been possible.
You can make this happen. The European Parliament will vote on ACTA later this year. Here's what you can do now. Make your voice heard. Tell your opinion to the members of the European Parliament. Send an email to your representative. Make them do their job. If you want to know more about ACTA and why it's bad for you and for the European Union, take a look at these websites.